I think the media is an easy scapegoat in situations like this, and so people always hurl complaints of one sort or another to the media, when I think the media really are in a very, very difficult position. And I think we have to try to be sensitive to that and understand that. I encourage people to get more involved in their media organizations in the community. So, you know, I think that people watching a television station, you know, the TV station, they would be surprised to know the TV station loves to hear from viewers. They love to hear comments. They love to hear reactions, because that gives them feedback in terms of how to serve people better. And so I think that's really what we need.
That is the truth. People do not realize that.
No.
Some of our best ideas, you know, feedback
Yep.
comes from our community. Well, and do you have any advice for maybe people who, I mean, like myself, or who do feel this sort of effect, like it almost feels like it happened to someone that I know, or that it's just a matter of turn the TV off, walk away? Is there advice for maybe sort of, I don't know, taking it in and maybe moderating it a little bit?
Yeah, I think we're overexposed, and to try to become conscious of that and to recognize that you're really not doing yourself a favor if you just kind of bathe in the emotional horror of an event like this. And I'm one to talk. I mean, I'm a news junkie, and I remember on 9/11, I was glued to my set for hours. It was my daughter, my 16-year-old daughter, who came over to me in the evening of that day and said, Dad, don't you think you've watched enough of that? And it was a shocking moment for me, and I turned to her and I said, yeah, you know, you're right, I have, and I turned it off. One of the challenges of the environment today is that we are carried by the media through a range of emotional reactions at a very rapid pace. So if you think about the fact that we're looking at people who are the victims of an attack on the one hand, and then 30 seconds later we're watching a commercial for a rental car or a toothpaste, and there's some kind of comedy in that commercial. Human beings are not wired so that we can adjust to that kind of emotional pace from a positive to a negative, back to a positive, back to a negative, in a very rapid sequence like that. That is a kind of an emotional numbing effect that we really haven't studied very well in our research yet. But those who do study emotion know that that takes a toll on people. To have to flip through emotions like that at a very quick pace. We're just not wired to do that. When we have a profound emotional reaction to something that's a distressful reaction, that requires some energy. That requires some resources to deal with, to cope with. And when the next media message coming at us when we're in the midst of that emotion is sort of an upbeat, happy message, that really is an emotional confusion for us that is actually stressful. So I think that the structure of the media environment doesn't help us, and the ultimate resolution is simply to turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or log off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It is true, and then it's interesting because sometimes I get this impression, and I'm sure people who were born after me who just grew up with cable news and sort of this idea that it's all the time, it almost becomes like you're watching it and it's like it's not really happening in some ways. Do you ever feel that, like, you know it's news, but it's so flashy and it's moving so fast, and they can present these stories in a way that is so entertaining? It's almost like it has that effect too. Like it's not really happening, or I almost feel like, well, should I be getting this worked up because this really, does it affect my life? But it does. You know, that's tricky too.
Yeah, we've become conditioned to be entertained by media, and it is difficult to make that shift sometimes when we're looking at the same physical object in our home that has entertained us, that's brought us great pleasure and relaxation, and now it's delivering messages to us that we're supposed to be distressed about if we're reacting normally. And so, yeah, I think there is a quality about that that's a little bit difficult for people to deal with. You know.
And I even notice that as I write stories sometimes, you know, because you're trying to make it something that is appealing to your viewer. So
Right.
Okay, well, I think I have a lot.
Okay.
But thank you very
yeah,
much.
Yeah. No.
I was going to add
Oh.
the vitriol that
Oh,
has
yeah,
been
yeah.
going on between the two parties for a long time. I don't know when it all started, but like,
Did this play into
yeah,
it?
does that play into it?
Yeah, you know, I think this is where local news, I think, has an advantage over national news. If you look at the national news organizations, they have over the years really, because of the competition and the desire to hold viewership and so forth, they have really evolved to a genre where the discussion of ideas has become polarizing entertainment. I mean, they really structure their programs so that they are dealing with the polar opposite positions. And oftentimes these shows, people are talking over each other. They're engaging in very rude interpersonal behavior because it's entertainment. And that, I don't think, has really been functional for political discourse in our communities. We really have been encouraged to sort of identify with very extreme positions and sort of take a position of hostility almost to something that differs from that, rather than engage in nuanced and civil and careful sort of analysis, disagreeing when disagreement is appropriate, but not with this kind of extreme rhetoric. And I do think that the media have played a role in taking us down the road to a kind of a political discourse that is not very healthy.
And you sort of mentioned also at the beginning that this sort of rhetoric, you know, if an unstable individual hears it, it sort of validates maybe their crazy thoughts.
That's a possibility. Mm-hmm. That's a possibility. It's always a possibility. And you know, what we're seeing right now in the aftermath of this is, well, who knows? Yeah. Who knows? And I think that one of the angles that the press sort of fosters in keeping a story alive is to speculate on those unknowns, and I don't know how productive that is in the end.